Make of thyselves that which ye desire, be it a lord, be it a god. But should ye fail to become aught at all, ye will be forsaken, amounting only to sacrifices.
In order to talk about the Tarnished, we need to understand the history behind the Lands Between and what has brought us to this point. The Lands Between are watched over by the Greater Will, who is a being of great power, responsible for the creation of the Elden Ring and the Golden Order of the Erdtree. The Elden Ring was housed within the Erdtree, which would in turn bless the land and its inhabitants with the grace of the Elden Ring, bringing an incredible level of order to the land. The Greater Will also selected an individual by the name of Marika to rule the Lands Between. She would be the guardian and keeper of the Elden Ring. Marika would go on to find a consort, Godfrey, who would become the first Elden Lord, and they would rule the Lands Between together, having several children. Marika would eventually go on to purposely alter the Elden Ring by removing the rune of destined death, making everybody under the grace of the Elden Ring immortal. But the Elden Ring and the Erdtree seemed to reject some of them, marking them as tarnished. They had been deemed as unworthy in some way. These inhabitants still couldn't die, but they had been sent into exile, banished from the land. Godfrey was a mortal hero of legendary status. He was the chosen consort and first husband of Queen Marika. As Queen Marika was a goddess, the children she had with Godfrey possessed demigod status. Marika had Godfrey lead a conquest, attacking neighbouring kingdoms in an effort to expand the influence of the Greater Will. One of these wars was waged against the fire giants. The Storm Lord led the giants in the conflict, and when the time came, Godfrey would engage in single combat that would eventually lead to the demise of the Storm Lord. But it is said, after defeating his greatest challenger in battle, Godfrey's warrior spirit left him, along with his grace. The light surrounding his body and the energy imbued by the Erdtree fled Godfrey's spirit, leaving him broken. Having been rejected by the Erdtree, Marika had little choice but to exile Godfrey from the Lands Between, making him the first Tarnished. Since then, a number of others who have been infected in the same way were also banished from the lands. Eventually, an event that would be known as the Shattering would change the face of the Lands Between forever. This was on the night of the Black Knives, where a clan of mysterious assassins invaded, killing many, including Marika's eldest born. During the fighting, the Elden Ring was somehow damaged and shattered. Fragments of the ring splintered into great ruins and spread across the Lands Between, starting a conflict between Marika's demigod children to determine who would be Marika's successor. The end result of the war was a stalemate between numerous factions. Many demigods now have great ruins, scavenged from the damaged Elden Ring, but none have properly risen to power to either replace Marika or become the new Elden Lord. This pointless middle ground caused the Elden Ring's blessing to partially fade from the Lands Between. Centuries have passed. The Tarnished are now being called back to the Lands Between by the Erdtree in an attempt to break the stalemate. Most Tarnished can only faintly perceive the grace and lose sight of it altogether after arriving in the Lands Between. This leaves them directionless and without hope. Some of these Tarnished go on to fall prey to a form of corruption called cessblood, becoming frenzied killers who obsessively hunt their fellow Tarnished. Other Tarnished who prove themselves are given passage to the Round Table Hold, a hidden place of refuge where violence between Tarnished is forbidden. And then there is a very small amount of Tarnished who are chosen to be sponsored by a Finger Maiden, a human representative of the Two Fingers, granting them the power to convert runes to strength, setting them on the path to becoming the new Elden Lord by seizing the great runes from the demigods and restoring the Elden Ring. So to answer the question, all of the Tarnished in the lands between originally became exiled because they'd fallen from grace in one way or another. They are individuals who no longer have the life force of the Erdtree running through them. Being labelled as Tarnished is a title that brings great shame. However, individual Tarnished have now been given the opportunity to grow in strength and power by collecting the great runes, repairing the Elden Ring, and becoming the new Elden Lord, changing this damaged realm to reflect the ideals and desires of whatever side they are working with. This was my first installment for this game, so I wanted to keep it relatively simple and straightforward. I have purposely been quite ambiguous with a lot of what I've said in order to stick to the question at hand, but also to keep the spoilers to a minimum. I'll certainly be expanding on some of what I've talked about here later on. I'm somewhat testing the waters here with this video. This is a genre I really haven't covered before, and I'm not really sure of what interest my followers will have with this. However, as far as the game goes, I'm completely hooked, so regardless of the outcome, I think this will be my next obsession for a little while. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!